Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to share another miniature, and this one is only 11 moves. So, yeah, it's kind of fascinating to look at games like this. Like, how can it go so wrong so quickly? Um, but let's have a look. The theme of this particular game, I'm sorry, the first move is E4. The theme of this particular game is going to be to break or not to break? That is the question. And so I'll show you the critical position. This was a Scandinavian, and this is my normal move against this. Knight c3, and now I take here. And the first mistake of the game is this right here. Knight takes d5. I see a lot of beginners and even amateur players make this mistake. Um, I don't think you should trade pieces unless it clearly helps your position. And here it looks like you're drawing the queen out. But this is in fact, sorry, this is in fact a very powerful post for the queen. And normally the queen would get harassed by knight c3. But because knight c3 isn't possible, this is actually already a good position for black. And probably is almost equal already. All right, my opponent played knight f3 from here. I mean, it's still a game of chess, of course. And now I was wondering about this move. I played bishop g4. Looks very natural. I like that it's sort of aggressive. And I'm sort of asking white to play bishop e2, putting their bishop on a less aggressive square. But I do want to stop and look at other potential moves here. Yeah, like the computer is saying knight c6 is probably better. So knight c6, probably e5 is a move. Yep, it is. So e5 is a move, just taking center space. We want to stop white from going d4 if we can. Does that actually stop it? I don't know. But these two moves together would. Knight c6 and e5. And the last move is bishop f5, which I like this. This means we want to play e6, and we just want our bishop outside the pawn chain. So, okay. I decided on bishop g4. I think the only problem with this move is that sometimes white can kind of prompt me to give up my bishop pair and maybe expand on the king side. And they can still go queen side in this position. So, okay. But bishop e2 is played, and now I played knight c6. And I just want to castle queenside, develop my pieces, castle queenside, play e5. That's really my goals here. And I think, white could play h3 here or d4. And my opponent, who was rated in the 1200s, by the way, for blitz, played the move c3. And I would consider this to be the second inaccuracy by him because it looks like it's preparing d4, but that's really unnecessary. I think white can just go d4, like right away, Like, what's the big deal? I castle queenside and the game continues. I castle kingside, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Wow, computer says knight takes d4 is possible here, which I just want to have a look at this because what? It is? So if knight takes d4, aren't I concerned about... I call this the boomerang tactic, when the knight comes back. Oh, but there's a problem. Checkmate. So, wow. Pretty interesting that knight takes d4 is possible due to this threat. Yeah, and I call this the boomerang tactic, when the knight can recapture something, like unleashing this communication between the bishops. And then when you take, the knight comes back. And that doesn't work here, obviously, but I call that the boomerang tactic. All right. So after c3, I'm like, all right, well, I'll just develop, a lead in development is a good thing. He went d4. And now the question, do I want to break or not break? I feel like I could play e5 here possibly, or I could play e6. Those are what I was considering here. And probably any good player wouldn't even consider e6 because I think this is clearly a case where you should break with e5. And the computer is confirming that for me. It's the best move for black, and it provides an advantage for black. And I do want to talk about this. So why is e5 good here? Well, it's a pawn break. And the reason we can play this way is because, as Michael Jolson says, there's a principle in chess that if you're better developed and you're castled, it's good. It's a good thing for you to open the center. And e5 is, creating tension in the center right away. I might take here. If he takes here, it's probably good for me because my king is castled and his is in the center, although he's just one move away. But also I feel like I'm a little better developed. Like this bishop isn't developed, but it has scope, and, well, my bishop's slightly more aggressive than his. I don't know. It's not a big lead in development by any means. But maybe it's something because of the c3 move. Okay, and here my opponent did take the pawn, and so this is what you have to calculate when you play a move like e5. Although not that much, right? Because, like I said, opening the center is actually good for me. So this is actually a huge mistake, I think for the reasons I mentioned. And now in the game, I saw the opportunity to take the queen. Queen takes d1 check. And after bishop takes d1, I thought this is a great time to grab the e-pawn. And this is really just a recapture. But I like that it was a retreating, I forced the bishop back. And I like that my knight came forward. And he cannot take back, but in the game, he did take back. And the problem is when he takes this knight, yeah, that unleashes another attacker here. So I was able to play rook d1 checkmate. Notice this nice pattern here. The bishop and rook checkmate. So that is how the game actually ended. But that's not the end of our analysis because, yeah, it's fun to win games when your opponents blunder, but I don't think that that in itself is helpful. I think we should look at what resources white did have in this position and see if I could have played this better. And it turns out I could have. So after this move, d takes e5, there's an even more critical move, and it's the move queen e4. And so this is the main idea that I want to remember from this game, is that queen e4 is really interesting. Okay, it does a couple things. It's a discovery on the queen. Notice how the rook is now attacking this queen. That's an issue for white. But on top of that, the queen is now pinning the bishop to the king. So that means if we do take here, this bishop cannot recapture. White will have to recapture with a pawn, doubling up their pawn structure. So that's pretty nice. And, so I'm thinking white has to respond by protecting their queen here. Queen b3 just seems wrong. So I don't know about that move. But what about, bishop d2? So this blocks. Well, here we can probably take the pawn, I'm thinking. And can they take? Let's see. If they take the knight, well, now the queen can just take it back, I think. And notice this bishop is still pinned, so it can't take back. And Wow, and the computer wants king f1 now as one of the moves, and also h3. So h3 just harassing us, I guess. I would be tempted to go bishop h5 here, but the computer likes bishop e7 the best. Wow, really? No, it actually likes bishop f5. It changed its mind. If we went bishop e7, I mean, I guess we're saying go ahead and take, and this is somehow okay. All right. Yeah, because bishop g5. This is kind of like one of those crazy computer lines, because now, I mean, we're kind of allowing this, but this must be bad too for some reason. Oh, it's because this bishop is actually pinned, so it's not really defending the pawn. So we would just take it. Yeah, and now it's giving this as the best line. Check. Rook takes. Queen takes f4. So, yeah, kind of interesting. So after d takes e5, this move queen e4 is really interesting. And I think that's a good example of how the line could go from here. So with this discovery and a pin in one move. And I find that in chess, if you're doing more than one thing with your move, it's usually a pretty strong move, because then your opponent has to find a way to cover both threats at once. So, here bishop d2 does stop us from taking the queen, but it doesn't stop us from applying pressure to this poor knight here. And if white would castle, yeah, computer just wants to like develop our bishop, or maybe take here. Yeah, and I mean, I think white's just getting double pawns no matter what, right? Because I can take. They either have to double pawns now, or they take with a queen, which looks really bad because, oh, well, the problem is this is a huge issue. But they can take this way. And now here's something else interesting. When you have this pawn structure, I've noticed this a lot of times. The computer loves to put the queen on h4. I guess that's like one of those things that probably any beginner would know to do, but it wouldn't occur to me necessarily to put my queen on h4. But it makes a lot of sense, and right away we can have a threat. F4 will probably be played, but then we have rover ideas, so rook up and over. Maybe we can get some play on the king side, and the computer does give minus 2.5 in this line. And actually, to wrap up the video, I think I'll go ahead and show this line. So I haven't looked at this yet either, but f4 and so all right, let's say bishop c5, b4, harassing the bishop, bishop b6, we'll just pull it back calmly, c4, threatening to trap the bishop, very mean. We can play c6 here, so we're going to reroute our bishop here, and this pawn will be under fire. Now queen e2, rook h to e8, of course, harass the queen, bishop e3 defending. Yeah, and now if I take, it will fix white's pawns, so I'm not sure I want to do that. Yeah, and here comes the rover, rook e6. The rover is a term used by Jennifer Shahadi, and it means rook up and over. So I kind of like that. I used to never see rovers, and I'm starting to see them. Because, until January 1st, when I started playing e4, I've been mostly a positional d4 player and just thinking about how to improve positions, not thinking about direct threats so much. But I'm starting to change my thinking a little bit as I venture here. So c5, and interestingly enough, The computer's calling for queen h3 right now. So what's the idea here? Sack the bishop. Yeah, if takes, looks like this is unstoppable. Rook g6 check. Here, checkmate. So you can't do that. And that's a nice move to find. You know, something like queen h3. It's so tempting to just move the bishop, but queen h3 is more accurate. So anyway, this is the kingside play I was talking about. I think these types of plans and this type of play is what you get out of this sort of pawn structure. So if we go back, e5 was correct, and white should not take the pawn. They should just develop and castle. But since they did, queen e4 is the best move here. And that results in the type of positions that we followed at the end there. So anyway, I hope this was interesting. I'm really enjoying analyzing these blitz games because during the games, I don't have time to really enjoy the positions or even learn much. I'm happy if I don't blunder all my pieces. So I'm really enjoying sharing these games and looking at them closely to find common ideas in the openings that I play. Because I have to tell you, like, if you're not analyzing games in this manner, I highly recommend it, and I highly recommend making flashcards of some of the key positions, especially like opening tactics and early middle game plans, because when I've done that, I see those ideas over the board. If they don't actually happen, they are included in my calculations and often result in me making different moves because I'm seeing more than I used to. So anyway, I don't know if that's helpful, but it's been really helpful for me. And yeah, and I rewatch these videos too. Like I rewatch my own videos. That's one of the ways that I use to sort of remember things. And this probably sounds dangerous, but I often replay my videos while I'm driving. Now, I won't necessarily watch them, but what I do is listen. And I can often recall, enough of the positions and enough of the ideas that I think it's still a useful method. So anyway, sorry to babble on at the end. I hope you enjoy my videos. Please like, subscribe, comment. I'm I'm gonna break 300 subscriptions soon, which is nice, but I would love to break 1,000. I would be like so ecstatic. So if you've managed to listen to my babbling and you liked it at all, please subscribe and you'll make me very happy. All right, have a good one. Bye.